My name is Alexandra. My daughter's name is Angelika. So one of the hardest challenges we ever faced as parents or caregivers is finding out our child is sick. Sorry. Angelika was always a healthy, full of energy, and full of wonder child. Her energy always seemed to lighten up the room no matter the situation. She was only 3 years old when her symptoms started. She fell and hit the back of her head at her grandparents' pool in May of 2013. A bump appeared on her forehead, even though she hit the back of her head. As odd as it was, the doctors cleared her and said that it was just a calcified hematoma. We took a family trip to Ukraine in June. We got back, and her neck started to swell. It was a series of small, round, pea-shaped bumps, and we were told that they were just swollen lymph nodes. No fevers or any other symptoms, so we were just advised that it will just resolve on its own. But it didn't. She turned 4 on July 20th, and the lymph nodes never resolved. They actually, in fact, some got bigger and more had flared up, about the size of beans now. So they started off pea size, got about the size of, beans, and it was just all over her neck. After 2 trips to the ER, we were told that one of the trips we were told that it was cat scratch fever because we visited Ukraine. One of the doctors said, oh, it's a third world dirty country, which, it really isn't. So the doctor was convinced because we left somewhere out of United States that she ended up getting cat scratch fever. I'm sorry. So then we did 3 more blood analyses and an ultrasound, which showed that it was just necrotic lymph nodes. We had our pediatrician had convinced us that we should just schedule surgery and have them removed. Our doctors scheduled one last blood analysis prior to the surgery. I will never forget that moment of pure fear when she called me and told me it's best I come in to see her right away to discuss the results, that we were advised to pick her up from school and go ahead and come to the visit with her. I cried the whole way there. I knew. Doctor never calls you, never gives you any results of any kind of tests if they're good. I knew that there were going to be something horrible, and everything that I could possibly think of was going through my head. On September 11th, 2013, Angelika was diagnosed with pre-B-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Everything was just such a whirlwind of emotions, information, confusion, fear, and uncertainty. Before that moment, cancer always equaled death. I felt like I had failed my child at that time. Her oncologist called it the good cancer, the cookie cutter treatment. As much as I respect our doctor, he was very wonderful, still is, we still see him all the time. And as great as he is, one thing that I learned that there's nothing cookie cutter and nothing great about cancer or its treatment. Angelika developed anticipatory anxiety after realizing that she had no say over anything that she wanted or didn't want to do. Angelika shortly after that discovered that she had full control over her body. She began to throw up all of her chemo pills, slept all day, and never wanted to do anything. We tried just about everything and anything to get her to take her medication. By the time that the doctors realized how big of a rift it had caused in her treatment, she was already coming to the end of her treatment. Now keep in mind that it is very uncommon for a small child the age of 4 to develop these kinds of strong emotions and strong anxiety. And that is why it took the doctors so long to realize what was actually going on. He said that it is more common in teenagers and young adults to have to go through anxiety or depression or any of those that really affect your moods. So a decision was made to surgically place a G-tube, which is a small button-like tube directly from her abdomen to her stomach, which allowed me to push liquid medication straight into her stomach and bypass her mouth and her esophagus. So that stopped her throwing up her chemo meds. So like saying, even though it was so cookie cutter and even though it was such a good cancer to have for a child, I know it's really hard to say, but yeah, it still brought up a lot of problems for her because it is very important to have to stay on schedule. So, sorry, so nervous. We finally completed her treatment a year after her primary finish date. It was a long 3 years and we were very fortunate. Now, I became familiar with Light the Night actually way before her diagnosis. I have a really good family friend who was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma whenever he was only 17. So I remember for a very long time having to come and do the survivor walks alongside with him, and became very familiar with what Light the Night and what leukemia lymphoma is all about. But unfortunately, with so many childhood cancer organizations here in Jacksonville, we never really got to utilize it for Angelika, but we have always been a supporter of the cause. And without a doubt, I know that I am certain that we would have not been turned down if we ever would have needed assistance. I'm so sorry, I'm so nervous, guys. Honestly, it really gives me great joy to see everybody here. You have no clue how much of a great deal everybody's support is, just to have to see everybody's faces, because we don't get to see your faces. We only get to be stuck in the hospital, with the machines beeping and, the doctors coming in and out and the nurses whirlwinding. And every now and again we get a phone call saying, how can we help? And at that point in time, we really don't know what to say. Oh, how can you help? Well, I did realize one thing, that the greatest help that we have ever received is through organizations like Light the Night, when we are being told that our daughter's counts were very low and we have to be admitted in the hospital for 2 weeks. And as a parent, you then have to make a decision. Do you go and work and provide, or do you stay at the hospital for those 2 weeks? Because we don't get to go home. We get checked in and we stay there. So organizations like Light the Night, like Leukemia Lymphoma Society, through Light the Night, they help support research and advocacy and patient support, which is greatly important. Like was said, that one of the major things that was funded by Leukemia Lymphoma Society is the chemo pills, which gives us more time at home. Those pills gives us time to be able to go out and do what we wanted to do instead of having to sit and get IV chemo drips, which took hours, sometimes a full day. So once again, that your donations to organizations like Leukemia Lymphoma Society to help support not only the research and the advocacy, but also the patient support, which is the answer to everybody's question when they hear that someone gets diagnosed with cancer, is what can we do to help? This is the way to help, because nothing helped us more during her time of treatment than knowing that there's resources available for our family. So that way, the last thing that we worried about is finances when her counts are low and we're in the hospital. But I do want to thank you all for being here this evening, and my family looks forward to walking with you and with yours to bring the light back, to the darkness of cancer on November 17th here at Everbank Field. Thank you so much, guys.